Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR. And today, good news for the 49ers. We got Jauan Jennings back at practice with a new contract for this season, and he looks to be happy and healthy. We'll get into that today on today's show.
Jauan Jennings, by the way, a full participant following his calf injury. Was that more contract or calf related? But now that calf has transferred to Christian McCaffrey, who we know was dealing with something right before kickoff in week 1 last year, and it turned out it had derailed his entire season. Are we on that same path again with a new injury creeping up for Christian McCaffrey before week 1?
And the 49ers going into a big game against the Seattle Seahawks up in Washington. It's going to be tough because of the crowd noise. You can work on it in practice, but it's not the same. You know, a lot of guys going to have first game jitters. It's going to be some guys jumping off sides, and you know, it's a big game that, you know, it's a big in season game for them to open with. You know, it's going to be everybody. The young Seattle defense is going to be looking at Brock Purdy and his new contract and see how much they can affect him.
Locked On 49ers Squad Show starts right now.
To all the faithful, it's the 49ers Squad. Everything San Francisco 49ers every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from Levi's Stadium. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. For those faithful to the Bay, the 49ers Squad Show starts now.
And thanks so much to everyone joining us today. This is the Locked On 49ers Squad Show on the Locked On Sports or Locked On 49ers YouTube channel. Man, I'll get this right eventually without any hiccups going forward on the Locked On 49ers YouTube channel and the Locked On 49ers podcast feed. If you aren't already subscribed, what are you doing? We got 4-time Super Bowl champion Dwayne Board and Brian Peacock hosted the Locked On 49ers show here live. Why aren't you subscribed? So hit that subscribe button, and thanks for tuning in on the podcast feed. However you're tuning in, we appreciate it. Today's episode is sponsored by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. And this one, there's a lot of 49ers news coming out today. And obviously we have we got a football game less than a week away. Finally, real football. A lot to get into today, but I think that we should start with the breaking news, which is something that broke about 45 minutes to an hour ago. Christian McCaffrey showing up on the 49ers practice report today as limited by a calf issue. Now, before we get into all this, I just want to gauge the concern level. Just when you hear that statement alone, the Christian McCaffrey is limited at practice by a calf issue. Brian, what goes through your mind when you hear that statement?
I'm the perfect person to talk to about this because I know how good Christian McCaffrey is, and I appreciate how good Christian McCaffrey is. And from that standpoint, how worried should we be? We should be level 1,000 worried about this, especially coming off last year's injury. The calf, as we know, is connected to the Achilles, and he had the Achilles tendonitis that really derailed his entire season last year. And clearly there's something going on with his lower half that, and it happens with running backs. And that's why my take has always been that I'm known as the West Coast chairman of running backs don't matter. It's not because running backs aren't awesome and fun to watch and valuable. It's because the attrition level is so high at running back, and the replacement level is also very high at running back. And I was one of the few people when the 49ers traded for Christian McCaffrey that was like, well, I'm not necessarily dancing in the streets and celebrating this move just because you have to give up so much for a position that is traditionally hurt so often and hurt more often now than back in Dwayne Board's days. I don't know if it was guys were tougher, played through more injuries or what, but guys are just hurt more, and especially running backs. I mean, you cannot build your team. I heard a lot of this in the offseason, guys. I heard, man, if Christian McCaffrey can just be healthy all year, the 49ers are going to be good, right? That's not a plan. The plan can't be one singular running back stays healthy and we're good. That is not a plan in today's NFL. And it shouldn't be a plan for the San Francisco 49ers. The good news is the Niners are still going to run for 5 yards a carry no matter who's back there, because that's what the 49ers do under Kyle Shanahan. In fact, a little known stat that a lot of people don't realize, Jordan Mason has a higher yards per carry in his career than Christian McCaffrey does. That's not because he's better. It's just that the 49ers run the ball well. And when Jordan Mason replaces Christian McCaffrey, guess what? The 49ers still run the ball well. Now, you lose a lot of other things. And the 49ers clearly don't want to play without Christian McCaffrey, but they've been to Super Bowls without Christian McCaffrey. They will be okay if Christian McCaffrey has to miss time. My question is this something that's been lingering? Is this something that just popped up now that Christian McCaffrey's kind of been taking a light workload all off season and is now really stepping into a week 1 workload, getting ready for the season? All of a sudden, oh no, my body can't handle this. And so that's why I say worry level on 1,000 as it pertains to Christian McCaffrey himself. I think the 49ers are going to be okay. They just traded for a running back. I think they got some promising young players as well on the roster, but I mean, not great when the guy who you expect to be the person who touches the ball most for your offense is now popping up on the injury report a few days before the season starts.
Yeah, and it feels very eerily similar to last year, where we thought he was going to be healthy for week 1, and then all of a sudden, right at the very end of preseason.
Can I jump in again? I drafted Christian McCaffrey Labor Day 1 year ago in my fantasy league 1.1, number 1 overall, thinking Christian McCaffrey is going to be fine. He's good. Let's go. He's the best running back in the league when he's healthy, right? So, and he didn't play. I drafted him number 1 overall, not knowing that just a few days later he wasn't going to play. I hope it's not the same situation for those folks who drafted Christian McCaffrey in their fantasy leagues, and I especially don't hope it for 49ers fans this year.
Absolutely. And Dwayne, you're a guy who's dealt with some lower half injuries yourself throughout your playing career. What's it like trying to come back from an injury? Like I have to assume that Christian McCaffrey, given the nature of his injury, has probably been told a time or two, have you considered maybe like not putting the same amount of workload on your body? And it's tough to do year after year to continue to play through stuff like that. So as a guy who's returned to the NFL field after dealing with a significant lower body injury, how much does that stuff stick with you even after you're, quote, healthy going forward?
Well, Eric, you hit it on the head, because you said his workload, his off-season workload. Sometimes players train and they overtrain, and he's one of those guys. Yeah. I'm pretty sure every day he's doing something, and you can't overtrain in the off season. You have to know your body to know where you're at and monitor yourself very well. Because if you get in a situation where you do overtrain and you start out, guess what you're going to do? You're probably going to injure yourself, because you haven't really recuperated your body yet from your training during the off season, and I believe that's one of the problems that some of the players in the NFL that enters, for week 1, is that they overtrain, and if you do that, you don't have, you don't have a basis to start the season on anyway, and the big thing that, in the running game with the 49ers, yeah, it's true. It's going to be a game that's going to be, it's going to be a game down in the trenches where, it's mano mano where you line up, it's the Seahawks against the Seahawks offense. Seahawks defensive line against the 49ers offensive line. That's where the bruising is going to come out of the game. But then, the 49ers are very good at, like Brian said, at running the ball. They don't care who they put back there. I think that they'll still run for over 100 yards,
Hey, Dwayne, what I'm hearing from you there is that you think that NFL players in the offseason should stop training for football and like just go get other jobs like guys used to do back in the day, right? Like go get a job at the docks or something.
Well, we did that because, hey, we didn't make that much money. All they doing is chasing the Brinks truck around, We never had a problem with the Brinks truck, and it didn't come parking from my house.
Yeah, and I mean the way that McCaffrey changes this offense, right? I mean, we talked about, Brian brought up how Jordan Ponches Mason, I love that middle name, by the way. Ponches has one of the best yard per carry averages on the 49ers, or did last season, and a higher yard per carry average in his career than McCaffrey. but he lacks that home run threat, right? Like McCaffrey, the beauty of McCaffrey is any given play can be a touchdown. It could be a completely broken play offensively, and McCaffrey will still find a way to turn it into 6 points. And he's so versatile in the pass game and in the run game. And the way that the 49ers can attack you in so many different ways offensively with McCaffrey in the backfield, it's just not something that you can plug in and play. Like, you can replace him by committee, right? Like, you can have Brian Robinson catching passes out of the backfield, and maybe you'll get some carries for Garendo to kind of help spell Brian Robinson in some moments. But none of these guys are going to produce the same type of home run threat that McCaffrey presents in this offense. And I mean, we see it in just the 49ers scoring, right? Like, they score a hell of a lot more points when Christian McCaffrey's in the game versus when he's not. So I think this is going to be a problem. I think maybe I'm a slightly more concerned than Brian is about the 49ers offense without McCaffrey, because show me another home run hitter on this offense right now. They don't have one. I mean, Kittle, but other than that, he's going to be getting, chipped at the line of scrimmage damn near every single route that he's going to run. And he's going to have a lot of attention from any team that they're playing, from whatever secondary is going against him. They're going to put a lot of attention on George Kittle. So with especially at the beginning part of the season, when you have all these guys suspended, injured, and just not ready in the 49ers receiving core, it looks like they're going to have a Frankenstein type wide receiver core for week one. We're going to get into that in today's show. But I am concerned about this 49ers offense and their lack of home run hitting ability without Christian McCaffrey. It looks like a lot of guys who are good in short yardage situations, maybe a couple guys who are going to run some short routes over the middle and have good hands, but it's not inspiring as far as like the speed and the big play ability when you take McCaffrey out of the situation. So I am a little concerned about this, but we do have some good news. Like I said at the start of the show, Jauan Jennings, new contract, bets on himself and is ready to go. Shows up at 49ers practice this week. As Brian said, had the injury designation removed for the calf. So it looks like he's going to be all systems go for week one in Seattle. ESPN's Adam Schefter reported that the Niners and veteran wide receiver agreed to a $3 million playing time incentive bonus to his current contract. So Jennings had been scheduled to make about $7.5 million this season, and he can now earn up to $10.5 million. Schefter also reported that Jennings rejected a multi-year offer from the 49ers, which would have put him under team control for a couple of years. I think we kind of know that Jennings has been positioning himself to be able to be a free agent and at least maximize this upcoming end of his contract, right? Like he wants a new contract. He doesn't want just an extension. So we'll see if he retains or if the 49ers retain Jennings next season. But for this year, he's good to go. And I think that this is a huge piece for this 49ers offense, because it's looking real sketchy with those wide receivers, man, going into Seattle. And this is a big game, man. This is a huge, huge, huge game in week one. We talked about the importance of starting early in our last show, and it starts Sunday, starts right away against the Seahawks. It's a division game. It's a rivalry game. And so you got to have, all hands on deck that can make it. So I think that it's a big bonus to have Jauan Jennings in there. But as a whole, how are we feeling about this 49ers wide receiver group right now? I mean, Jauan Jennings is for all intents and purposes the wide receiver one for your next couple of weeks. So Dwayne, I want to start with you. How are you feeling about the 49ers wide receiver core going into Seattle?
I think going into Seattle, it's going to be one of those games where, these guys haven't played much together. Okay, Jennings hasn't been catching, game passes with Brock. You called him last year, but and you're looking at Ricky. He's to me, he's still a rookie. You're not a veteran until you play 3 games in the NFL. So it's going to be tough. I think, and plus the thing that's going to affect them is going to be the crowd noise, and you won't be able to audible and hear the audibles. They're going to have to use a lot of hand signals. Okay. And so if you haven't been out there working with the quarterback and the hand signals, all of that plays a big part of it. So it's going to be a slow start for them, period, because like I said earlier, these guys haven't worked very much together. They haven't worked really game situation together, It's going to be interesting. Because all offenses start slow in the beginning. Defenses are way ahead of it at this time. Going into the first game, the defense is always ahead because they've been together. They played more snaps in preseason than I was going to bring up something about offensive guys are a little I don't want. So
defensive guys are clearly smarter than the offensive guys, right? They try to make the offensive guys learn all this stuff. The defensive guys just to they're ready to go because they're smarter, they're tougher, they're more handsome than the offensive guys. So that's why they're ready to go when the season starts. I do want to say that I don't think it's nothing that Christian McCaffrey is going to be out, but I think where the 49ers miss out is probably in the passing game. And one of the things that Christian McCaffrey brings, and if it's not yards per carry necessarily, it's just I think a term that has kind of come into the football zeitgeist in my mind since Christian McCaffrey became a 49er. It's the gravity, like how impactful a player is and how much attention opposing teams play to a player. And the reason that Kyle Shanahan never wants Christian McCaffrey off the field is because of the mismatches and what you can do with the playbook. His entire playbook is open to him with Christian McCaffrey in the field. And he's the reason why we still saw Kyle Juszczyk brought back that. It's a similar idea. It's like you can do anything you want when those guys are out there on the field. It's the same with George Kittle. That's why he needs his wide receivers to be able to block. You need to be able to run the ball and throw the ball, stay in front of the sticks, and be a balanced football team. And that's where Kyle Shanahan is at his best. And that's why he loves Christian McCaffrey. And that's what the 49ers are going to lose there. And to be honest with you, I thought McCaffrey would have been a really nice fit for like a third wide receiver for the 49ers with the banged up wide receiver group and be a really, really, really big part of the receiving game. And so it's kind of crazy to say, but maybe the 49ers will miss out in the passing game more by not having Christian McCaffrey out there. If he's not ready to go, we don't know. It's just he was limited. It's not like he's out yet, so we'll find out, and hopefully he's able to play, and this is nothing, and they're just giving a little rest before the season starts. But you don't love this calf injury popping up with his injury history, with that Achilles tendonitis he was dealing with last year, which I believe was termed as a calf injury before it became Achilles tendonitis, wasn't it? Last offseason. So not a great sign there for having Christian McCaffrey full strength this season. And again, creeping up just before the season starts. But as far as the wide receivers go, Jauan Jennings is such a fun player to watch and an easy guy to root for. I don't really call a guy that would just pancake dudes on the other team, but have such a big smile on his face. Probably the only other thing I would think, the other player I would think of is George Kittle, right?
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say.
A little bit, right? Like how emasculating is it when the guy in front of you is smiling as he's putting you on your back? And so Jauan Jennings is a really good player. I can see why they couldn't figure out a long-term deal if he wanted that big payday. I just don't think it was going to work out for the 49ers this year. So, the 49ers might lose Jauan Jennings in the offseason to the highest bidder. And that's just the reality of today's NFL. Talking about Brinks trucks, and if he wants that Brink truck to come by, it's probably not going to be with the 49ers with how much they're paying everybody else right now. But he's a really good player, and I like that they were able to come to an agreement. He gets a few more dollars here to feel better about this year before he hits unrestricted free agency. And it's really important because now they got another starter across from Ricky Pearsall in week 1. And you talk about the big play guys. Pearsall is like the speed guy on the football team right now going into week 1 if Christian McCaffrey is not going to be out there. So I agree with you though, Eric, is like, where do the big plays come from? And Kyle's good at creating big plays in the run game. Do we see a little Jordan James and obviously Isaac Guerendo's got some speed, so maybe a big role for him if Christian McCaffrey can't go. He can catch the ball out of the backfield, so can Brian Robinson, but obviously it hurts Kyle Shanahan to not have his number 1 out there, which is Christian McCaffrey in the run game and the pass game.
Yeah, I think that you're definitely onto something with McCaffrey's, with what the 49ers are going to miss in the pass game with McCaffrey out, because I do think he would have been there far and away their best option in the slot right now of anybody on the team. If he's healthy, he's their best slot receiver in my mind. So, I would have liked to see him, be able to, or I would have, I guess we still don't know if we're going to see him, but in my mind, I think how I'm talking is already kind of giving you guys a clue of how I'm thinking about this. I'm not expecting McCaffrey to be there week 1. And if he is, not expecting him to be the workhorse running back that the 49ers expect him to be. And if you're just joining us, Christian McCaffrey did have a calf injury, or was listed as limited in today's practice with a calf injury. And obviously you start to think back to last year, and that just brings up some really bad feelings, really bad thoughts, and kind of makes you hold your breath. So we'll see what the 49ers are able to do offensively going into Seattle. And we got to talk more about this Seattle matchup, man. On the other side, let's talk about some key position battles to watch. The Niners going up to Seattle, a big matchup in week 1, right around the corner, just a few days away. Don't go anywhere here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. We will be right back. Today's show is brought to you by DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP. Who delivered? Powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Sunday with DoorDash Streaks, saving money every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. And let's break it down. And for the 49ers, it's not necessarily a player this week. It's John Lynch, delivered in a big way, getting that deal done with Jauan Jennings just in time for the regular season. Came down to the wire, but Lynch came through. And John Lynch has been money for the 49ers since coming over as the general manager. And just like John Lynch is money for the 49ers, DoorDash can save you some money and deliver your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you can save every Saturday on your order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo through 11/18. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by 4-time Super Bowl champion Dwayne Board. That never gets tired for me to say it. I'm sure Dwayne never gets tired of hearing it himself, too. And also joined by Brian Peacock, host of the Locked On 49ers daily show. And I'm Eric Engel, Eric Triple E Engel. You might know me from doing some of these postcasts, do it for the Giants and the Niners and Warriors here on the Locked On Sports Network. But the Niners, a huge matchup in week 1 looms against the Seattle Seahawks. We've talked a lot about the peripheries of it all, right? Like the injuries and who's going to be there for the 49ers. I want to drill into these matchups that we're actually going to be watching on Sunday. And so I'm curious, Brian, let's start with you. What is the position matchup that you are most intrigued by, but with this Seattle Seahawks 49ers matchup, or the position battle that you think is going to have the most impact on the outcome of this game?
We could probably just stay right on the theme of the run game for the 49ers, and I think that's where this game's going to be won and lost on both sides of the ball. But if you want to focus on the 49ers offensive line against the Seattle Seahawks defensive line, I think the Seattle Seahawks are a team that's built to beat the 49ers in a lot of ways. And we could talk about, drafting a safety like Nick Emanwari to potentially do battle with someone like George Kittle. But man, when you think of Leonard Williams, and I don't know if Leonard Williams and Trent Williams are related somewhere down the family lineage, but he's one of the few human beings who can match up with the freak of nature that Trent Williams is. And, with defensive end length, but defensive tackle power, and Byron Murphy going into year 2 on that Seahawks defensive line. And man, the 49ers always want to be a balanced football team and want to be able to run the ball, and it opens up how they play football. So I think that's really important that the 49ers are able to run the ball, stay in front of the sticks. And if Christian McCaffrey's not out there, it's going to be up to Brian Robinson. It's going to be up to Isaac Guerendo, maybe the rookie Jordan James, who kind of swept under the rug was the quote from John Lynch, who said basically that Jordan James, before he got hurt in camp in preseason, was about ready to be the 49ers running back too, ahead of Isaac Guerendo. So they like that kid a lot. And I think he's a very, he's a really solid player across the board. He doesn't blow you away, height, weight, speed, or anything. I think he's just a good running back, balanced running back, good vision, and it can help you out in a lot of ways. And so, look, the 49ers need to be able to run the ball, and they are always a team that wants to run the ball, especially when you talk about a banged up wide receiver group. And the Seahawks team is built to stop the 49ers, I think. So I think both both run games are really the matchups to watch here, and we'll probably tell a big story about this game. But with the Christian McCaffrey injury, I think it just adds a little bit more intrigue to how the 49ers run the ball and what they look like up front against that Seahawks front that's built in the image of the Baltimore Ravens that did a really good job against the 49ers historically in recent history, especially when Mike McDonald, the head coach, was over there as defensive coordinator.
Yeah, and I think that I think you're spot on with the way that the Seahawks have kind of constructed that team to be the anti-49ers, and it's going to be a battle. I mean, there's a lot of interesting matchups. When I was thinking about this topic before the show, I wrote down like 5 or 6 different position matchups, and I was like, okay, well, I can't just say every single position matchup is going to be key, but that's kind of what it feels like in this matchup, because there's so the way that these teams go about just trying to win a football game just seems very different to me, in just very opposite ways of each other in a lot of different ways, and it's going to be a lot of battles of styles, I think, but ultimately there's a few key spots. Dwayne, before I get into what I think is going to be key, what do you think is going to be the key matchup this week as far as position battles go?
Well, we go position battles. I would say the two brothers, the two Kubiak brothers, it's brother against brother in this game, and they both are calling, the plays on offense. So that's going to be the key matchup, is how well they work. Which brother's the best. They call them great. They call in plays, but you forgot to mention, the Seahawks also picked up DeMarcus Lawrence too. Playing. He's another big add-on for him, and like you said, with Leonard Williams and Jern Reed, and they got the down guys. And the thing you're gonna have to do against them, I think you're gonna have to get them in a situation where they're gonna have to play that nickel defense. And that's why I see the Seahawks could be suffering a little bit of that, because, I don't see the secondary, right now as being together long enough, to do things. But if you could just get them into where they got to play nickel, and you spread them out, and like you say, you put McCaffrey at E, and then you motion back in the backfield, or you shift him out, it's going to create some coverage problems for him. Also, it's going to create some problems with him stopping the run, once you spread them out and get them in a nickel defense, but I would try to get them out their base defense as quick as possible.
I mean, they do have that reworked defensive line, as Dwayne said, with Lawrence coming over from the Cowboys. I am a little shocked, Dwayne, to hear you give a former Cowboys D lineman the amount of credit that you just gave him. But he is going to play a major factor into today's game, Sunday's game. Right now, we got Eagles playing Cowboys, so we were talking about a former Cowboy, Cowboys playing right now. But I know that you still got a little bit of you must have a few leftover feelings about the Cowboys even at this point in your life, Dwayne. Am I onto something here?
Yeah, you're onto a lot, because I put them right with the Rams. I don't like the Rams, but I just threw that out there because of Jerry Jones. It's another one of Jerry Jones' mistakes, I think.
Yeah, he just in one offseason let both his bookend pass rushers just walk out of the building. And yeah, I mean, as a 49ers fan, I hope Jerry Jones sticks around forever, man. Like, I hope he figures out the key to eternal life and just continues to be the GM of that football team until the end of time, until football is no longer played in North America. That's how long I want Jerry Jones in charge of the Dallas Cowboys, man.
Yeah, if you're Jerry Jones, your franchise is worth $13 billion. At some point, go retire and enjoy it instead of, to be honest with you, for having an owner / GM and the Jones family being so involved, they've actually done a pretty good job at drafting, but then they go and shoot themselves in the foot with other maneuvers like the Micah Parsons trade to keep them from going and winning. When younger Jerry Jones was a little bit sharper, he was the one that was stealing pass rushers from other teams. And we talked about this last week after the trade and how it would kind of mimic the Charles Haley trade. So now Jerry Jones is kind of on the other side of that thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting to watch what's going on out there in Dallas. I mean, I for one, am glad that Jerry Jones chose the mystery box, the 2 first-round draft picks instead of the nice shiny pass rusher in Micah Parsons and potential defensive player of the year. I mean, who doesn't love a good mystery box? You know what I mean? It's tempting sometimes, but I don't know about that situation for Jerry Jones. But for the 49ers against the Seahawks, just to put a bow on this, I think for me, the matchup that I'm looking at and is just really intriguing to me, and it might not be the most impactful matchup in this game, but I'm really curious to watch the Seahawks revamped pass attack against the 49ers revamped secondary. I mean, we got a lot of new guys for the Seahawks, it's mainly just one new guy and a lack of one main guy. But for the 49ers, a couple new guys in the base unit in the secondary to start the season. So we know Demo Lenore has historically always had some beef with DK Metcalf, and they've sparred throughout their time here in while Demo was in San Francisco and while DK was in Seattle. And Demo in the offseason was kind of, talking. He talks a lot. He was talking some smack about Jackson Smith and Jigba, and he was on Instagram Live, if you guys recall this, during the offseason when the DK trade demand came about, and live on Instagram, Diamador Lenore said, quote, I got to where is it? I just lost it. He said he proclaimed that the Seahawks can't let DK Metcalf go, and was quoted saying, "How am I going to have fun out there?" And that's just a massive shot at everybody else in that Seahawks wide receiver room. He called Jackson Smith and Jigba a crybaby. He said all that guy does is cry over there. So I'm curious to see Demo Lenore getting into it with some Seahawks wide receivers. I'm fully anticipating some chippiness. I mean, it's got to get directed somewhere, right? Like the old target was DK, and just the way that Lenore plays, like he's not nicknamed the hyena for no reason. Like this guy's going after people, you know what I mean? So we'll see which Seahawks receiver is going to get it. But if you're asking me, I think it's probably going to be him and Jackson Smith and Jigba going at it this Sunday. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. But also, Cooper Kupp in a Seahawks uniform, how is that going to work? You got Mooney Ward, no Malik Mustafa in the 49ers secondary. So how is this secondary going to match up against them? I think this is all going to be very interesting on Sunday against the Seahawks. So we'll see what happens. And obviously, just to add another thread to it all, you got Sam Darnold, former 49er quarterback, Sam Darnold leading the Seahawks. And you've got a lot of 49ers fans still out there who probably will make the case that they want Brock Purdy to be benched for Sam Darnold still to this day. If they could go get Sam Darnold back, I bet a lot of 49ers fans would still jump on that boat, even though that's not me. And I'm sure that that's not Brian or Dwayne either. But there's a lot of people out there who would campaign for Sam Darnold still here in the Bay. So a lot of interesting stuff going on, and just in general, the one other kind of like matchup that I was thinking, like air quotes matchup, is the 12 versus the faithful, because the 49ers fans have reportedly bought more than 50% of the tickets in Seattle. So we will see what happens. We talked a lot about that crowd noise earlier on in the show. Maybe the 49ers fans, maybe the faithful going up there can generate some crowd noise of their own and make life a little tough for the Seahawks. That would be nice. That would be nice.
Yeah, we'll see if Sam Darnold has to go into that silent count that Dwayne was talking about a little bit earlier, with the 49ers fans buying 53% of the tickets. And it's a loud stadium. And kudos to the architects that built that stadium, because it's basically 2 amphitheaters facing each other, and that place gets loud. And that's a huge advantage if the 49ers can be half of that stadium and negate that noise disadvantage that most teams have, which is why it's so hard to go play in Seattle. So that's going to be a huge one. And kudos to the Niners fans for showing up.
Yeah, I mean, I love when the Niners fans travel, but there is a little part of me that I can never enjoy it fully, because for me, I'm a huge baseball guy. I mean, if you're watching on YouTube, you see the Flying Squirrels hat, the Richmond Flying Squirrels hat, the San Francisco Giants AA team, and I have this theory that since the Dodgers fan base travels so well, and we know that there's a lot of Dodgers 49ers fans, I have this theory that a lot of those 49ers fans that are traveling are those same Dodgers fans that are traveling around all these games. And so I enjoy it during 49ers season. Don't get me wrong. I love seeing the faithful travel with the team and seeing that sea of red, especially down in LA, especially that just fills my heart with joy. But I always like pause a little bit when I see that and think, man, all these people are also rooting for the Dodgers for the rest of the year. And then we're at odds. But hey, for at least for the fall season, we can all come together and be on the same team and root for the 49ers. And I'm glad for the traveling faithful at this time of year.
There's a lot of 49ers and Dodgers fans, which seems insane to me, but you forget that fans that are of a certain age didn't have a football team in LA for a little while. Exactly. And of course, what football team are you going to like if you don't have a team in your local area? Well, it's going to be the San Francisco 49ers, right, Dwayne?
That's it. It's going to be the 49ers, But going back, like you said, you got 50% of the 49ers fans there and 50% of the Seahawks fans. Who's going to make the most noise? I'm going to give it to the 49ers fans myself. Yeah. Who's going to win the noise battle? They're going to, it gets so loud in there. I don't think that statement's going to register on the Richter scale this game. It's going to be kind of balanced out.
We know how the 49ers fans like to imbibe as well. As Seahawks fans might be more on the edibles there, so that might affect some things as well.
Yeah.
Seattle a little more relaxed than San Francisco fans. I mean, I don't think this is the same. I don't think this is the same wine and cheese crowd of Dwayne Board's playing career. But I think maybe some 49ers fans might be getting into the gummies as well. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Bringing up the wine and cheese, I hate to bring them up again, but I remember when I was might have been my second year, we go down to LA to play the Rams. You never seen anyone having a tailgate party with tablecloths and the wine glasses on the table. Those are the Ram fans.
Wow. Okay.
Seattle won't be
the real
like
wine and cheese.
Yeah, the Seattle won't be like that. And I'm sure some of the 49 fans are going to go up there and they're going to have an old 49er tailgate party too before the game.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm very interested to see how that crowd battle kind of plays out too. As I said, the faithful versus the 12 is kind of like the last, hypothetical, 49ers versus Seahawks matchup. I'm not one of those guys who, you have fans every now and again who like to think that they're a part of the team and stuff like that. Like you've seen it in a couple different sports now where the fans kind of feel like, like the team's success depends partially on them showing up. And I think that people who think it that way are a little full of themselves, maybe. But so I don't know how much this will all impact it. Obviously, the noise is going to change some things, but outside of the noise factor, just enjoy the football game. Let everyone on the field decide the outcome of the game. So for the 49ers will travel up to Seattle to take on the Seahawks this weekend. And we got some more to get into on the show. We got to actually make some picks for this game. I mean, who's going to win and why? We got a lot more to get into on the Locked On 49ers Squad show coming up next. Don't go anywhere. Today's show is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive. And that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. And I used to own a Mazda. My very first car was a Mazda. The thing was so reliable, so safe, and Mazda offers more than safety. It's won more 2025 IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. And as an athlete focuses on every single detail, Mazda does the same, from metallic accents to hand-stitched Napa leather. Whether it's a quick drive to practice or a weekend road trip, Mazda makes every day feel special. It's the small details that make the big plays, and just like there's more to every player, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by four-time Super Bowl champion Dwayne Board and host of the Locked On 49ers podcast, Brian Peacock. And the 49ers, we're talking 49ers Seahawks, big matchup in week one, a rivalry matchup, a division matchup right off the rip. And the Niners, we've been talking about their position battles coming up. But ultimately, we got to plant some flags here, right? Like, who's going to win this game? I want to get some picks, and if it's cool with you guys, I kind of want to like track these throughout the year. Like, I'll be writing notes down throughout the year And we're not going to do like the whole around the NFL thing, but we'll just pick 49ers games. Whether you know what you think the outcome's going to be, we'll throw out some scores. And at the end of the season, we'll take a look back and see just how wrong I was and just how right you guys were. So today, I want to know, Dwayne, let's start with you. Who's going to win and why? And what's your final score?
I think it's going to be 24-21 is going to come down to a field goal. Right? That's my call on it.
Uh-oh.
So how do you feel about that?
Is that a Jake Moody field goal we're relying on? Because I don't feel too great about that.
I picked on our crossover show with Corbin Smith, the host of Locked On Seahawks. I picked the Seahawks because I just think it's a transitional game for the 49ers. And if it comes down to special teams in a close game, and it's a 3-point swing, and I think it'll be a close football game. And now with the Christian McCaffrey stuff, and yeah, how confident are you if it comes down to special teams and a field goal? And I bet a lot of 49ers fans aren't super confident. And now it could go the other way as well. You're in the other team's building. Will it be a true home field advantage? Are there really going to be that many 49ers fans there? I don't know, but yeah, the Niners are favored by 2.5, I think, right now. And I think I would probably take the points on that. I think it's gonna be a close game, and I think that's why. And there's a lot of ways this thing can go. And I think both of these, there's so many unknowns with both of these football teams, and that's why it's so hard. Because I come back to the 49ers run defense, because earlier on I talked about the 49ers offensive line and how that's one of the keys to victory. If we go to the other side, Seattle ran the ball like crazy in the preseason, and they're going to try to run the ball anyway. They got a pretty good two-headed monster at running back. But they were running the ball in the preseason against other teams' number one defenses. So it was good on good. It was 1 versus 1s. The 49ers, they didn't have their 1s out there a lot in the preseason, but when they had their 2s out there, they couldn't run the ball at all. And so just based on that, I was like, man, okay, don't get hurt Trent Williams, right? That was kind of one of the big vibes I heard. Don't get hurt Christian McCaffrey. Well, it might be too late there. We'll see what that ends up being like. But and it was a promising one series that we saw from the Brock Purdy offense, but we didn't get to see a lot of it. So I just think the 49ers might take a little time to get into this season, whether it's timing on the offensive side of the ball, whether it's all the rookies and the young players on the defensive side of the ball. So you're either going to start 2 rookie defensive tackles plus a rookie defensive end, right? But you're going to start 3 rookie defensive linemen, or your starting tackles are going to be Jordan Elliott and Clea Davis, who were backups last year. So, I'm in wait and see mode right now on that 49ers defense. I do think Robert Saleh is going to help a lot, but the 49ers were last in the NFL last year in tackles for loss and making stops at the line of scrimmage in the run game. And I think that's why we saw the offseason that we saw for the 49ers. And I think they're going to be better there eventually under Robert Saleh and with some of the big players they drafted up front. But again, they're rookies playing their first NFL games. So I think this is going to be a team that's a lot more difficult to play against in December than in September. And yeah, I think I would probably, take the points, which means I might be on the Seahawks side of this thing, especially if it comes down to a Nick Modi field goal, because I don't know how confident I am on that right now.
Yeah, if this comes down to a Jake Moody field goal, I think that this is not a 49ers win. I'm going to just put that out there right now.
Jake Moody's hitting 70% of his field goals. So if it comes down to a field goal, there's a 70% chance the Niners are going to win the game. I do want to say that.
Yeah, it's crazy to look at his percentages from certain distances, right? Because I feel like this is a guy who will just go out there and whiff a 35-yarder, and he'll come back and he'll hit a 52-yarder the very next drive. And it's so aggravating and infuriating. If you can hit a kick from 50, why can't you hit it from 30? It just makes no sense. And man, it bothers me so much year after year to watch this guy. I really don't know why the 49ers are running it back with Jake Moody. I refuse to believe that there's no better option out there. I really do, because we've seen so many other teams go out there and get kickers that have, either been in the UFL or out of the league for a couple of years, and they come back and they are just fine and better than Jake Moody. And maybe they don't have the leg to hit from 60 yards potentially, but I would trade that extra 5 yards of leg strength for a guy who's 5 to 10% more accurate any day of the week, personally.
And he tried to do that with going to the 2-step kick instead of the 3-step mechanics. I don't know, maybe we'll see the 4-step mechanics at some point if the 2-step doesn't work. But Dwayne, you'll probably agree with James in the chat here, who just said Joe Montana said never rely on kickers, go score TDs. So if there's any advice for the 49ers this week, you know what, just go score touchdowns. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. I think we got a frozen Dwayne board here for a second, but
he was so excited about that quote from Joe Montana. He's like, "Yep, mic drop there."
We'll see if Dwayne can get reconnected. But for my pick, I'm going 49ers here, and I'm not doing this super confidently. I'm going 21-17 49ers, and I think that even though that this is all the things Brian said are 100% spot on, right? Like, this team has been rebuilding essentially in a lot of areas, not a complete from the ground up rebuild, but they got a lot of moving parts that they got to figure out. The wide receiver room is in shambles, as we talked about. If Christian McCaffrey is not there, it's going to be a very big obstacle to overcome. It's a good thing they got Jauan Jennings back. The defense, a lot of new faces in that front seven. It's a rebuild time sorta for the 49ers. So this early part of the season, they might be a little slow out of the gate, but I'm still going 21-17 49ers. It's 6 wins all of last year, and that's tough to think about, tough to feel any sort of confidence in going into this season. But the winds of fortune do change pretty often in the NFL, and every year we always hear about that stat of teams that make the playoffs that had missed the playoffs the year before. And usually one of those teams has a decent run. And there's no reason that can't be the 49ers. I mean, unless this Christian McCaffrey injury is a bigger deal than we think it is, then that might be a reason that they can't do that. But I think that one of the big things that I'm looking at is the recent success in Seattle. Last 3 seasons, the 49ers have won games in Seattle. Last year, like I said, they only won 6 games. One of those wins was in Seattle. And I know that the Seahawks team, I think, has improved this year. I think defensively, especially up front, the Seahawks front seven is dramatically improved. And I do think that offense is going to look pretty good with Sam Darnold back there. I do believe in Sam Darnold, although not more than Brock Purdy. I do think Sam Darnold is a serviceable quarterback in the NFL, and I'd rather take him than Geno Smith personally. So we'll see what happens up there with the Seattle shake up with their roster. But ultimately, I think the 49ers have enough in the tank to get it done against the Seahawks. And as I said, they've won 3 games in a row in Seattle. One of their 6 wins last season was up there as well. So tough place to play. But, I think that this 49ers team has enough to get it done. We'll see what happens. But like I said, I'm going 49ers 21-17. And Brian, what was your score prediction? Just so I can make sure I write this down.
I didn't really have a score. I feel like scoring is usually down early in the season across the league. Defenses that are ahead of offenses. It's an ugly game. That's why I kind of lean toward taking the points in this game. Something like, you're not far off. I'd say 2017, something like that. Maybe 2019 even.
Oh,
2019 Seahawks. There you go.
Cool. All right. Well, we got it in the books.
Yeah. If the 49ers score 19 points, that tells the story right there.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, and like our guy James said in the chat, just go score touchdowns and you'll win this game. The big problem is this team going to have enough playmakers to score some touchdowns, especially if Christian McCaffrey is injured. And one thing that I think is going to be an interesting thing to watch is this 49ers wide receiver group. We've talked about it a lot on the show, but one thing that we did not talk about yet is Russell Gage. And Russell Gage is kind of a little interesting wrinkle to me, because this is a guy who obviously spent all of last season injured. I mean, almost career-ending type injury, he's worked his way back. He stuck with the 49ers, and the 49ers stuck with him all the way through. And we'll very likely see him on Sunday. I mean, playing a big role too. Like, this guy is going to go out there and catch passes from Brock Purdy and have to be a contributor. the last time that we really saw him in Atlanta, he looked decent. Now that was a few years ago at this point, so we'll see if he's still got the power in those legs to get it done out there on the NFL field. But I don't know. What are you thinking about Russell Gage and the impact he could make in this game, Brian?
I don't know. I don't know what to expect about the 49ers rotation at wide receiver. And the Niners, they still play a decent amount of 3 wide, but they play less 3 wide receivers than anybody in the NFL. But it's still, a lot because everyone plays. Some teams just play, only 3 or more wide receivers. So they're going to need a third wide receiver. So I don't know if they're going to look at this like, I thought maybe Christian McCaffrey could potentially be a big part of that. We'll see if he's healthy and able to do that. Russell Gage, a little bit more of Brandon Ayuk, Jauan Jennings insurance to me. Does Sky Moore get involved as that F sort of slot receiver? Do they move Ricky Pearsall around a little bit and have Russell Gage come in and play on the outside? Is it going to be Marquez Valdez-Scantling on the outside? I really have no idea beyond Jennings and Ricky Pearsall how that rotation is going to look at wide receiver. And to be honest with you, if I'm advising 49ers fans out there and putting people into their DFS lineups, I'd probably say, man, especially if Christian McCaffrey's hurt, go heavy on George Kittle.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to be a monster, I think, in this week 1. He's going to have a big game for the 49ers offense to have some success. And I do think that he's going to have, 10, 15 targets for Kittle probably in this game.
I don't know if you've been listening to Locked On 49ers, but that's kind of our running thing. Me and Croc is like, well, how many targets did George Kittle get? Not enough, because he should be getting the ball 10 times a game, no matter what, at minimum. In some games, you'll see his line is, gets targeted 4 times. It's like, what are you doing? I can't imagine sitting there during the week game planning and thinking, oh, we don't have a good matchup with George Kittle. We shouldn't use George Kittle more, right? So no excuses now if there's no Christian McCaffrey and you kind of got a weird wide receiver group after your top 2, especially. Got to be a big George Kittle game. And especially, I would say, if we're talking about matchups, how about welcome to the NFL, Nick Emanwari? If the Seahawks think they drafted this, 6'4", 4.4 speed specimen because he's going to shut down George Kittle, there's been a lot of specimens drafted in the NFL that were complete busts. And I'm not saying Nick Emanwari is a bust or anything like that, but week 1, year 1, welcome to the NFL, buddy. Good luck. Big George Kittle game.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough play to make if your first attempt at a tackle in a regular season NFL game is George Kittle coming at you with full head of steam, laughing as we talked about earlier, just tackling the whole way down the field, ready to blow somebody up and send him to the hospital. But George Kittle, I agree with you. He should have an opportunity for a huge game this week, and I also agree with you. And I don't know how George Kittle can get less than 6-7 targets a game, even when it's like when the game script doesn't go your way. I don't know how you don't get that guy involved. Like you don't want some rhythm passes that can just little simple out routes or drag routes to your tight end that he might be able to break into 20-yard gains because he's just that good with the ball in his hands and that much of a free runner in the open field. Like wouldn't you maybe want to get the ball into that guy's hand? I mean, Kyle Shanahan is the play caller savant. And so, what do I know? But as you said, I can't imagine that you're game planning for any team, any week and saying, I think George only needs 5 catches this week.
Yeah. And look, Kyle Shanahan's a very smart guy, smarter than me. I will say that. I'll be the first to say that. And so it's very game plan specific, and there's things that he sees on tape that he's attacking purposely. But at the same time, come on, it's George Kittle. He's kind of game plan proof, I would assume, it to a certain degree.
Yeah, and real quick, one more thing before we get to our last break here, Brian. We've seen so many injuries throughout the 49ers, in the last couple seasons, especially last year. Kittle is a guy who has been, banged up throughout his career and seems to always miss at least a game or 2 every season. He's kind of, I think right now, aside from the quarterback position, he's got to be the most important guy on this roster to keep healthy. Maybe Trent Williams might be a little bit above that, but I mean, the way that George Kittle changes this offense with what he does in the run game, with being able to block and set that edge on the outside against the best pass rushers in the league, against the best defensive lineman in the league and still be able to go out there and do what he does, catching the football as well and run after catch and all that stuff. I think that he is right now with especially with the calf injury with McCaffrey, you can't have George Kittle go down next. I mean, it's starting to feel like it's I don't want to say that it's starting to feel too much like last season already, but man, I mean, the 49ers have already dealt with a ton of injuries before week 1 even has started. And it's not really sitting well with me. Like, I don't feel super great about this, the 49ers health going into week 1. So we'll see what happens.
No doubt. I mean, George Kittle, one of the most important players for the 49ers this year. I'd put him ahead of Trent Williams probably on the offensive side of the ball, just because of his dual threat nature and what he can do for your offense. And look, Trent Williams is going to miss games. Trent Williams has never played 17 games in a season in his NFL career. And even when they were 16-game seasons, he's only done that twice. So Trent Williams is going to miss some games too. Like, that's going to happen. Yeah. George Kittle plays a certain brand of football. He's going to get banged up a little bit. Hopefully he doesn't miss much time for the 49ers, because he's going to be really important. I think there are two players, though, that I would probably even put ahead of those two guys that are more important for the San Francisco 49ers. And they're on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know if you want to tease that and talk about that a little bit next.
Yeah, let's break here. And on the other side, we'll wrap up the show with the most important defensive players for the 49ers success this season. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Today's show is sponsored by FanDuel. The NFL season is almost here, 3 days away. Well, the NFL season is happening right now. 49ers season 3 days away. But we got NFL on TV right now. And FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your team wins, if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And I love that FanDuel lets you get in on same game parlays and even on live. Like, you can go right now to FanDuel. You got Cowboys and Eagles playing right now, and you can bet on this game right now from your couch on FanDuel. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by Brian Peacock, host of the Locked On 49ers podcast, and Dwayne Board usually with us, but I think the Joe Montana comment just made Dwayne so excited that his internet just blew up or something, man. I don't know. He was hyped when we were talking Joe Montana and scoring touchdowns instead of having to rely on special teams. But one way that the 49ers can help that offense, even if they can't score a ton of touchdowns, is by stopping that Seahawks offense themselves on the defensive side of the ball. So, Brian, who do you think are you just teased it in our prior segment, who are your two defensive players that are keys to the 49ers success this year?
Yeah, and I'm sure all the listeners out there think I'm going to say Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. But the two guys that can't get hurt, at least on the defensive side of the ball, are Deommodore Lenoir and Renardo Green. Because there's a lot of good wide receivers on the schedule against the 49ers. And to be honest with you, you're already crossing your fingers. You don't want to see a sophomore slump for Renardo Green. I think he's out of the woods. He's a really good player. Deommodore Lenoir, we know how good he is. He has to focus on playing outside and not in the slot this year. And then you have a rookie nickel with them in Upton Stout that's likely going to get the start in week 1 for the 49ers. So, depth a little thin, I think, in the secondary for the 49ers. But let's be honest, the two guys, and you're right, if you thought it was Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. That's what I was talking about. Those guys are so. Where is the 49ers pass rush going to come from if it's not Nick Bosa? And teams are going to put a lot of resources into blocking and chipping Nick Bosa. I know I would, and expect it on third down. The first time they have a third down, watch how much attention they pay to Nick Bosa, because Alfred Collins, are you worried about him getting to the quarterback, or Nick Bosa if you're the Seattle Seahawks, right? I'm worried about Nick Bosa. Are you worried about Kalia Davis, and are you worried about Jordan Elliott? No, you're worried about Nick Bosa. Even Michael Williams had 5 sacks last year in his final college season. Now on third downs, he might jump inside and rush from the interior. And I like that matchup with the rookie on rookie with Michael Williams against Gray Zabel, which I think will be really fun. But the 49ers have to find a way to pressure the quarterback. If the run defense is better under Robert Saleh, and hopefully they are in those third and long situations, I think Saleh is going to probably dial up some blitzes because I don't know if you can just rely on Nick Bosa, and I'm not sure how many other really good pass rushers they have. Bryce Huff is going to be big, and Mykel Williams, hopefully he is able to rush well from the interior. But Bosa is so important, and then just keeping the unit together with so many rookies on the football field. The green dot guy in Fred Warner is so important for the 49ers, and he started off having a potential defensive player of the year season last year through 4 weeks before he broke his ankle. So hopefully he's healthy because they're going to need that defensive player of the year type player in Fred Warner, who's flying around and making plays and helping everybody else in that really young transitioning defense.
Yeah, it blows my mind what Fred Warner did last year. I don't think he gets enough credit for last season because, like you said, he was on pace to be defensive player of the year and then broke his ankle and didn't miss a game and kept playing at an all-pro level. Like maybe not defensive player of the year level anymore, but dude was still probably, one of the best, if not the best middle linebacker in all of football last year with a broken ankle. Like,
and his response, because reporters are like, hey, Fred, your ankle's broken and the Niners are out of it. You can shut it down, dude. And he's like, nope, I'm good. Don't worry about it.
That's a professional. That's a professional.
Awesome. Right. How can you not love that?
I mean, man, I absolutely love Fred Warner, man. Like he's one of those guys who just like George Kittle. It's just infectious. Like you can feel the energy through the TV while you're watching this guy. It's crazy. But yeah, our listener James, one of our everydayers, says Mykel Williams has to foot the bill as a true first round gem. And I think that's pretty spot on, man. Like the 49ers pass rush has got to come from somewhere. But one key thing that I want to kind of touch on before we wrap the show up that you just said is Robert Saleh coming back, because I can't tell you how many times last year I was watching Nick Sorensen on third downs just sit in the base defense and just screaming to send one guy, please. Like just make the offense have to account for even the possibility of a pass rush or a blitz or something. Just don't be so damn vanilla all the time. And that's all that defense felt like it was to me, was just as vanilla gets. They didn't have the horses to just sit back in the base defense and just, dominate the other team. It wasn't like that. They needed more creativity. And even before Sorensen with Wilkes, I thought it started to decline as well. Like he was not a big blitzer either. But one thing that we did see from both of those D coordinators is in the beginning of their time with the 49ers, they didn't blitz much. As time progressed towards the end of their tenures, they were blitzing because they realized the pass rush wasn't going to just magically appear. Like Nick Bosa is getting double teamed, triple teamed in some situations and on third down. And you got to have something from somewhere else. The 49ers just didn't have the horses for it last year to be able to just line up in your base defense and beat the guy across from you. So I think that they are a little more talent rich this year in their front seven, even though it is a lot of really young guys, and you're going to have to hope that talent translates into production on the field rather quickly. And these guys don't really have a lot of time to ramp up. You kind of need the production right now, week one. Let's go. But we'll see what happens, man. I am very interested to see the exotic blitzes that I've heard from many Giants beat reporters that have all been raving about the multitude of looks that Robert Saleh has thrown out there in 49ers camp in preseason. And we haven't seen it a lot in the preseason games, which I don't think we're going to see the most exotic packages from any team in the preseason because they're saving that for when it really matters. But I am very, very, very interested to see the kind of genius that Bob Saleh rolls out there. That might be the thing that gives me the most hope for this 49ers team this year is having Rob Saleh back in the building. I mean, he's a game changer without even being a player. He is maybe the biggest game changer on that 49ers defense.
It's so important. And he doesn't have Kyle Shanahan looking over his shoulder like the other defensive coordinators. And it probably hampered Steve Wilkes and Sorensen a little bit, knowing that they couldn't quite run the thing that they wanted to run. They were trying to mimic something else. And now the 49ers just have that thing back that they were trying to mimic. And if Robert Saleh wants to blitz, he can blitz, right? And I think probably they were neutered a little bit because the defensive coordinators didn't feel like they could blitz when they wanted to. They had to win with 4, but if 4 wasn't winning, and it probably worked against them quite a bit. So I'm super excited that Robert Saleh is back. He's a really good coach, and hopefully that means that they're going to be a much better unit, stopping the run. Their run fits will be better. They've got some bigger bodies up front, albeit some young players, and we'll see how that comes together and dialing things up when they need to, because you got to get off the field on third downs.
Absolutely. Well, that's about all the time that we got here on the Locked On 49ers Squad show. Thanks so much for everyone who tuned in. I really appreciate it. It's not a show without you guys. So shout out to all our everydayers. Shout out Dwayne Board, who his internet, I'm assuming, exploded because he was so excited about the Joe Montana reference that he just, the internet blew up and he wasn't able to finish the show. So hopefully we'll have Dwayne back and ready for our post game this weekend. But make sure you're tuning in. Sunday we will be going live immediately following Seahawks 49ers. So don't go too far. Make sure you're subscribed and you're ready to go for that post game show. Thanks so much for tuning in, and shout out Brian Peacock as well for holding it down with me while Dwayne's internet was on the fritz. So thanks so much to everyone for tuning in. I'm your host Eric Triple E Engel. We'll see you next time. Peace.